Like if you think about like growing up as a male, like did you have discussions about like therapy or mental health or?
I mean,
We African.
yeah, we're African, so we have to bottle so much in because our parents only be like, oh, they'll be like, if me and you are fighting, and my dad sees it, he's gonna be like, oh, let's talk about it. We won't even get everything onto the plate. Let's talk about it, but when he's done listening to what we have to say, shake hands, hug each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's different.
Yeah.
Did not have that same experience. Never mind. I thought we were on the same page. It's like society says it without having to say it. Like you just taught,
Right.
you always have to be tough.
Yeah.
So like I think, that plays effect. Like over a while and for years, like if it's not expressed and it becomes the norm, like you don't even notice you have a problem. There's a problem to address. So I think I grew up. I think like I had like a vendetta against the world. Like I remember like I don't think it was until I met you we went on one of like those retreats. And like we like started like breaking things down. And I was like, whoa, like I'm kind of messed up. Like I got, whoa.
So we have to ask like where being vulnerable, why is that considered being soft, right? Like this idea that you have to walk around and exist with this psychological armor that you have to put on, right? Because you can't let them see your mask crack, right? Like you can't let them see you smile. You can't let them see you have joy because that means that you're soft, right? And so what does that do to us, right? Like you talk about the stuff that you had to bottle in.
Yeah.
What does that do for you?
It doesn't help.
It doesn't
It just
help
keeps
at
your
all.
mind racing every single time. Yeah.
I have really bad social anxiety sometimes, but you would not know because I force myself to like try to like be outgoing as much as possible to try to break that off. But like being like having social anxiety kind of makes you naturally like antisocial. And
Yeah.
I'll come off really antisocial to people who don't know me, and at the same time like you look for an outlet. So like I started playing football, and that came with a whole list of things in itself. But nah, so like no, like on the road though, like you going school, like it's hard to focus in school if you have problems you can't like deal with at home and you don't know, like you don't have the words or like even the knowledge to really break down what's going on. So like I'll be at school and I was crushed high school. Stop it. And I'd finish school, I'd head to practice, and I'll just take it out on the field. Like I just started like but like I didn't understand like where that like why I was so where all the natural like competitiveness in me was coming from, the anger, like the aggression, like the rush. Like it was like it's really a rush, like because it hits you like that.
Yeah.
What about like for you? Like you talked about like coming over here, like to the U.S. Like in your family, did they talk about like mental health? Did they talk about any of that?
I mean, between me and my father, he always told me like, if you have a problem, just swallow it and just keep pushing
Just
forward.
swallow it and keep it pushing.
Yeah. So like, me personally, like it has affected me growing up to become a man, and it's just like now I'm more talkative. I used to be antisocial. I used to didn't talk to people. I used to always be angry at school, and it just never worked. So the fact coming to college and people talking about therapy opened my eyes. I mean, I haven't gotten therapy yet, but as you can see, like some of my friends I'm extremely close to because I always want to talk. I feel like there's things that are bottled up in me that I just need to release. So me talking to somebody for hours just gets it out completely instead of always having it bottled up.
Like they say like when you bottle stuff up, it's like drinking poison yourself and expecting somebody else to die, right? Like you're taking it in yourself. And so the way that like mental health came up in my family, like I mean people used to say that, oh, I don't need no counselor, I'm not crazy, right? But like when I was about in third grade, like I was acting up in school and my mother was like, yo, there's something wrong with this kid. And she took me to a child psychologist. And then at the end of these sessions, they said there's nothing wrong with him, like he's experiencing trauma. Like I was living in Harlem, crack cocaine was going crazy. And then they said, put him into martial arts. And so they put me into martial arts around that time. And so that's what I did that. And so that's how I learned how to meditate. Yeah, I got hands.
You
I mean, you can catch
I
them
know,
if you
I'm
want.
good.
But that's what I did. Like, so I trained, I learned how to meditate, and I learned how to kind of channel that energy into my art form. When I think about it, and I think about like how they intervened to get me a counselor at that time, right? And that the counselor didn't say medicate him. They said, yo, help him deal with the trauma and help him channel it. And so I did that through martial arts, and I think that's what saved me. So those of us who stayed in martial arts, we went on, we finished high school at least, but those of us who didn't go got caught up into the system, right? And so my parents intervening and making me feel that mental health was important, even though they didn't know anything about it, because I'm sure they've never gone to a therapist, but they allowed me to go. And so I still have a therapist now. Like, stuff gets stressful, You go, talk it out, and move, right? We got to get to a point where we don't make it seem like there's something wrong with you. Like, I think everybody should have one.
Like, what's your experience, like, dealing with, like, younger cats like us? Like, how many times, like, do you feel like you're often playing that role of, like, the therapist? Like,
tell you the truth, every day when I go into the shop,
yeah.
every day when I go into the shop, I definitely feel like that I play a big part in, because a lot of kids, they come in, they ask me questions. For instance, they come in, their day might not have been right in school, so I'm cutting their hair. They might be like, Big Mike, had an argument with such and such in school today, and it just didn't turn out that way with two kids going back and forth.
Yeah.
Now, when they get into when they come in the shop, you can see it all over their face, like stress issues that they may have had. And all they have to do is most likely bring up the topic and tell them what they want to hear.
What type of discussions are y'all having about, like, self-care, mental health, counseling, therapy? Like,
well, for me, honestly, I didn't really care about, like, mental health or anything like that until I started going through it myself. I started dealing with, like, anxiety, like, freshman year. So that really sparked something in me to start researching and like searching deep within myself to just, start seeking help. So then I started going to the counselors here, and then, I started learning things about myself. I started meditating. I started running, just to get that out of me. And then, started just talking to my moms about everything.
I mean, and I think that's big, like, to go out and seek help, right? Because if you think about, like, a lot of the research talks about, like, a lack of help-seeking behavior, specifically, like, with men of color, right? Because we come here and think we have to do it all on our own, that it's only us. That if we let somebody know that we have this perceived weakness, then we're not seen as hard, for them, right? Or we have to put on this image of perfection, right? And then I think that's detrimental, right? Like, we don't necessarily get to be our whole selves because we're thinking about who we are, but then we're also thinking about ourselves through the lens of how we think other people see us, right? That extra pressure, that burden.